The Super Nintendo turns 25 years old today. Hey everyone, One Big Boss here, as you can tell from the title of the video that you clicked on, and by what I just said, well, it's the birthday of the Super Nintendo, the 25 years. 25 years of fucking greatness, okay? I mean, I've got my original one from back in the day right here. It's a little dusty and worn, it's got that yellow trim on it and everything. And unfortunately, it no longer works because the power pin right back here, it's snapped off on the inside, and it was kind of a sad moment for me when that happened, because this is one of the only things I have left to remember my grandmother by. I know my folks got me this like when I was about 4 or 5 years old, and you know, I know that I got it from them for Christmas, but I also knew that it was from my grandmother because back in the day my folks didn't really have a lot of money. And then I also have this other Super Nintendo which I just bought, and I have it loaded with one of my favorite Super Nintendo games of all time, Super Mario RPG, Legend of the motherfucking 7 Stars. Okay, it doesn't say motherfucking, but I gotta do it because I want us to be like Samuel L. Jackson because he's fucking great, and every time he says motherfucker, it's fucking beautiful, so, you know. But yeah, this thing was the game changer, okay? That system right there was the game changer for me for many ways. In a course of development of who I am today, okay? Now, a lot of you may know that I'm an artist and I do a lot of writing as well. I do a lot of drawing. And Nintendo somehow just created games that became very memorable, okay? A lot of people are going to hate that I'm going to say this and everything like that, but I really don't care because I think it's the honest to God's truth. When it comes to the Super Nintendo, it was an RPG heaven, okay? Now, I suck at RPGs. I've never really been good at them as much as I love playing them, you know, but it gave birth to games like Chrono Trigger, which is undoubtedly one of the greatest RPGs of all time. I mean, come on, when you really think about that game, holy shit, okay? Look at all the Final Fantasies that are on there. Those games are fantastic, and they've withstood the test of time. They still look great. They aged very well. Even Chrono Trigger has. Then ones like I mentioned, like my personal favorite RPG, or one of my personal favorites anyway, is Super Mario RPG Legend of the 7 Stars. That got me into writing my own separate series about like the Mario universe and everything like that. And it was something really incredible when I started, and I still draw it today. You know, over 20 years later, I'm drawing all these characters still. And oh my god, like some of the other games that were on there that I experienced, like NBA Jam. Which I know, like, NBA Jam was on the Sega Genesis and everything, but I was a Nintendo person mostly back in the day because I didn't really get a Sega Genesis until, like, the mid to late 90s, if I remember correctly. So, but yeah, I used to play the Sega at my buddy's house all the time, but it was NBA Jam was on the Super Nintendo. And some of the other games that are on there that I'm trying to think of. Oh, Secrets of Mana. Man, if I knew what that game was going to be worth, I would go back in time and just have kept it from Blockbuster or something like that. You know, because holy shit, that game was really fun. And then, probably one of the all-time greatest RPGs of all time, because it wasn't like traditional RPGs at the time, Earthbound. Okay, I love Earthbound. It is one of my favorite games for the Super Nintendo. It is one of my favorite games of all time. And that game is just so amazing because it's not about like swords and magic and everything like that. I mean, there's like psychic abilities and everything with the PSI fire and all that stuff. But your weapons weren't, you know, swords and shields and all these things. They were baseball bats, frying pans, zip guns, you know, and you know, the story was wacky. The writing was fantastic, you know. And I loved Earthbound, and it was one of the games I rented all the time. I probably rented that game enough to have bought the game 4 to 5 times over. All right. Earthbound was just this amazing thing, and I loved it from the beginning to the end. Super Mario World, that's another one because, you know, playing Mario 3 and then playing Super Mario World, and you're just like, holy shit, like the leap with this, okay? I mean, I think 3 is probably the harder one of them, but I really do love Super Mario World. That game to me was just, you know, it introduced us to Yoshi. You know, the worlds were so dynamic and incredible, and a lot of them didn't really feel the same. Some may have, but at the same time, you're like, damn, these levels are fun to play. Like, there were levels where you're just like, oh god, not this fucking level. But not because it was bad, but because it was challenging and like, it really got to you and stuff. And that game's another one that's aged so well. It looks great. I mean, hell, you can recreate it in, like, Mario Maker these days. So, let's see, some other games. Street Fighter games were on there, you know, but they were also on the Sega, but I used to play them a lot. Mega Man X, okay? The Mega Man X franchise, holy fucking shit, alright? Those games are worth so much. Well, 2 and 3 are. 1 is very easy to get. Cheap to get, I should say. But man, like, I played a lot of Mega Man when I was a kid, but then playing Mega Man X and that fucking music in the opening, everything was great in Mega Man X. I love the robot master designs, you know, all the Mavericks you fought. Chill Penguin was one of my favorite. Armored Armadillo, if I'm saying that name wrong, I think I am. But I loved him. He was fantastic. And they all had, like, obviously, like, the weaknesses. And what I loved about Mega Man X was, if you use some of these weaknesses on certain bosses, they would, like, lose, like, parts of themselves or something like that. They would get, like, chopped off, and they wouldn't come back. And it was awesome. You know, the music was fantastic. You know, you always wanted to play as Zero, and then, like, in the second one, you get to fight against Zero if things go wrong. And 2 was great. I loved 2. My personal favorite of the original trilogy was the third one, because Mega Man X3, you got to play as Zero. The music in it was fucking jamming. Everything about that was about the X franchise right there was great. And then the fourth one came, and the fourth one remains my favorite Mega Man game of all time. Out of all the Mega Mans out there, if you want to combine all the universes that they've made, 4 is my absolute favorite to this day. But 3 is King of Kings for the original trilogy on the Super Nintendo. Mario Kart was a game that my cousins and I played a lot of back in the day. We used to kill each other at that game all the time. Mario Kart was like the start of something great. Now, if you go back and play, unfortunately, it's like it still looks good, and it does provide a challenge if you're gonna play 150cc on Rainbow Road, because there's no fucking rails on that level at all. So if you get bumped off, there's no chance you're probably getting back to first place unless you get a lightning bolt or something. But you know, the 2-player option on it was great. It was fun. I will admit, like, if you knock a player like out of second place, they will eventually come back and retake their spot at second place. Same if you do it for third, fourth. So you know, like, it was the start of something, because to me, still the all-time greatest Mario Kart game is the N64 version. That's my personal favorite game. I'm not saying it's the greatest one. I'm not trying to, like, start a debate, but it's really, like, the greatest. Let's see. Trying to think some other games here. I should have wrote this down, actually. Super Mario All-Stars. How could I forget that game? That game brought back the classics in new graphics, and they were great. I loved playing Mario Bros. 2 on that, because Mario Bros. 2 on the NES was very... Well, I mean, it wasn't Mario 3 graphics at the time. It was pretty much, like I said, it was actually the first review that I ever did, and it was pretty much, you know, a copy of Doki Doki Panic. But playing all those ones, plus the Japanese-only lost levels that we got, that was fun. They're still challenging, they're great, and I love them. And I think that 2 is probably the one that I played the most of, because it's just so fun. The Game Boy Advance ones are great of Mario Bros. 2, because there's more to do, which is even more fantastic. Let's see. Some other games here that I'm trying to think of. Oh! Yoshi's Island? That game was great. You know, it took what we loved about Super Mario World in many ways, and we got to play as Yoshi with Baby Mario, screaming and crying every time he got off our back, and it was a hassle at times, but the game was a very challenging game. And, you know, then it went on to, like, they made, like, Yoshi's Story and then Yoshi's Woolly Butthole and everything, which, you know, I didn't really care for. But Yoshi's Island was really something special, and I love the graphical art design of that game. It was incredible. It actually is the game that got me to draw Yoshi's a lot better as a kid, you know? Let's see, some other games I'm trying to think of right now. Well, I mean, this was on the Sega as well, but Tecmo Super Bowl, because Tecmo Super Bowl is, like, I'm not really a sports guy per se. Like, I love watching sports, like, I love watching football, and I love watching baseball, but I don't know, like, I don't like the games that much. But the early days of, like, Nintendo and Sega and Super Nintendo are where true games, like sports games, came about. And Tecmo Super Bowl was that game. Me and my friends still play it to this day. I mean, in fact, I have it right here, okay? This game, I can't get enough of it. It's great. It's a busted as hell game when you get the right team, but it's fun as hell. So Tecmo Super Bowl, that's something that I have a lot of memories with the Super Nintendo. Let's see. Ooh, Contra 3. Yeah, Contra 3, The Alien Wars. How could I forget that game? That game is still one of the hardest games on the Super Nintendo. Again, another Super Nintendo game that aged very well. Very, very well, and like, it's so fun to play. Hard to play with 2 players. It is, because if you're playing with somebody who hasn't really played the games before, they're gonna get annihilated. They're not used to just, like, the constant waves of enemies coming at you, and you're just, like, gunning everything down and shit. And it's just so amazing. I'm trying to think of, and again, another game with the music. I'm gonna stop talking about the games for just a second, so I can tell you about the amazing soundtracks for Super Nintendo games. I don't know what it was, but it was amazing. Somehow these games came out and they just nailed it every single time. They freaking nailed it when it came to making, you know, great music. There's so many, like the Super Mario Brothers games, the Mega Man X games, pretty much like any RPG has like such an amazing soundtrack. Now, I do love a lot of Genesis tunes because like, you gotta love that music, but we all know because the sound chip was pretty crappy. That's why the games didn't sound as good as they should have, but they were still very memorable. But Super Nintendo had like the sound effects, it had the music. Super Mario RPG is again another thing I have to reference because its music, much like its gameplay and everything else, was just amazing. It was awesome in every way possible. Let's see, but yeah, the music is just legendary on so many levels. I mean, the ones in the Donkey Kong Country series, or at least the first two in my opinion. Well, 3 had decent ones and everything, I will admit that. But yeah, just like the remixes of all kinds of music, or the guitar covers that you find on YouTube of all these people who can play these amazing fucking things. It's incredible. You know, they're just awesome. I mean, Killer Instinct has a fucking amazing soundtrack for a Super Nintendo game. Then again, Rare knew what they were doing back in the day before they got swallowed up by Microsoft. So back to the games. Let's actually start with that. Killer Instinct. Everybody was playing like Street Fighter back in the day and Mortal Kombat on the Sega and Super Nintendo. And then Killer Instinct comes along, and not a lot of people played it, but that I knew of personally, but I loved the game back in the day. Granted, busted as hell. It kinda hasn't aged well graphics-wise, but Rare had this thing about graphics back in the day that were really amazing and different from the other games. It really pushed the Super Nintendo's limit, in my opinion. You know, you had games like Super Mario World, and yeah, the things were bright and colorful, and even when they were dark, they were still very, very nice. But then you get a game like Killer Instinct, everything's like really dark and like well designed for back in the day. The artwork's really good for back in the day too. And then games like, let's move into another segment, the Donkey Kong Country series, okay? Those levels and the designs in those games and the character models were something incredible. Alright? To this day, I praise them and I love... Donkey Kong Country 2 is still my favorite of all of them. Okay? DKC2 has replay value. It's so much fun because you're playing as Diddy and Dixie. You know, yeah, I was bummed out Donkey Kong was captured and everything. And then he got captured in the third one, which I thought was a bit ridiculous. It could have just been, you know, easily put Donkey Kong with Dixie Kong and everything. You know, it could have done something like that. But, God, like... those level designs, the overworld maps that you could travel to, and the music, holy shit, the music is something incredible from those games. Again, like, I can't get enough of the music from the Super Nintendo. I'm a music junkie. Sorry. But yeah, the Donkey Kong Country games, I loved playing the first one with my cousins years ago, and then I got that by myself, and I also have Donkey Kong Country 2, and I'm just like, god damn, it's really fucking awesome. You know, just the graphics and the gameplay and the levels that they created in those games were just something unreal, and the enemies you came across were just amazing. Now, again, like, it sounds like I'm going on like a huge nostalgia boner here and everything. And honest to God's truth, like, I probably would, because the Super Nintendo was a major life changer for me, because when you got the instruction booklets with the games, they had like detailed characters in their drawings, especially like Super Mario World. If you had that one, it had showing you how Mario did all the different things, all the different enemies. The Koopa Kids and Bowser were on the back page, and it's how I learned to draw better, you know? And just seeing the leap from the NES to the Super Nintendo was something truly amazing in my eyes. It was just, God, like, it's just amazing. Point simple, just the graphical leap from what we went to and what we got, and it was just amazing. So let's see some other games that my buddies and I really love. Oh, this one's a no-brainer. I mean, it was on the Game Boy and the original Nintendo, but it was also on Super Nintendo, and I think it was on Sega as well, but I think the Super Nintendo is the far superior version, and that is Battletoads and Double Dragons. That fucking game, man. You took like the two hardest franchises to fucking beat, or even play in general, and you put them together. And yes, it's still a very hard game to play, but unlike its predecessors, you could actually beat the game if you tried hard and you learned the game. And again, I'm gonna mention it again. I'm sorry if I keep mentioning this, but the fucking music in Battletoads and Double Dragons has to be some of my favorite, because there's people out there that when they put together the Battletoads and Double Dragons music for covers, oh my god, it's fucking awesome. Like, I get hyped. I can actually work out to it and everything. It just the way it flows in and out. The soundtrack is amazing. The gameplay is awesome, combining the worlds of Double Dragons and Battletoads and everything, you know? God, I wish they would make a sequel to that game, because Double Dragon Neon was fucking awesome. I don't care what anybody says. That game was great. Oh my god, like, that's another game. And I'm trying to think of some other ones that we all played. You know, oh, how can I forget this one? This is one that me and my buddies still play today, and it is a very defining moment of our childhood in many ways. Oh god, it's called Battletoads. No, sorry, I just said that one. God, I fucking love that game so much. No, it's Pocky and Rocky. Pocky and Rocky is an amazing game from start to finish. Side-scrolling, it's fantastic. It's awesome. It really helped me get into all like Japanese lore and like the culture and everything. The game is amazing. It's somewhat short, but it offers various difficulties, and there are things to explore and find in the game, which I'm pretty sure at this point, after like 20 years or 25 years, my friends and I have found it all. But it's a great co-op game, and that's what I love. Super Nintendo knew how to make games good for co-op, and Pocky and Rocky has to be one of the top best co-op games that ever made. Then there's games like Turtles in Time. Granted, it didn't have the 4-player option, and even though we had the multi-tap at the time, I don't think it took the multi-tap, which was kind of a shame. But that game was great. It was fucking awesome. I loved that game so much, despite the fact that you can only play 2 players on it. But it was still great. It was still awesome. You know, because who doesn't love the Ninja Turtles? Because that was still kind of at like the hype of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in many ways. Let me see here now. What else can we talk about? Damn, I've kind of like said a lot on it already, just like what it offered back in the day, and what it still offers today. You know, the Super Nintendo, in my opinion, just adds so much, and it still offers a ton for anybody who may have missed out. Now, thankfully, like, you know, thanks to the Wii or emulation, you can play these things on like your phones or your tablets or your computers at home. And you can experience why these things were so good. Because it's the strangest thing. Like, I look back at even, like, regular Nintendo, even PS1 and Sega Saturn and stuff like that, and a lot of the games did not age well or haven't responded to how it is today. But Super Nintendo and even the Sega Genesis have aged very well and still play good and hold up even by today's standards. And that was pretty much the graphical powerhouse that was the Super Nintendo. They did a lot to make that what it was. And I gotta tell you, man, if I could go back in time and just go and say, like, oh yeah, hey, I shouldn't be throwing these boxes out. Because I did. Like, I got a ton of Super Nintendo games, as you can see up here. And I wish I had all the boxes for them still. I kick myself every day. I mean, I got some down here, but goddamn, man, I wish I had it. I wish I still fucking had them. But yeah, like, God, those games. Oh, and Super Bomberman, that was a fun game. That was a 4-player game for the Super Nintendo with the multi-tap. That was fucking great. Games like F-Zero, that was fun, despite the fact that it didn't have a 2-player option. Nintendo, get on your ass and make another F-Zero game, okay? I know you don't think a lot of people want it, but come on. Captain Falcon, nobody knew who he was in Smash Brothers, just like nobody knew who Ness was in the original Smash Brothers, and people learned who they were, and they started liking their games, and they became legendary, okay? So, get to it. Get on that shit. And also, for your Virtual Console, for all the other games you fucking own, get on your shit and start putting them out on the Virtual Console. You don't want people pirating your games or emulating them? Then put them out. We will buy them if you keep them there. Don't take them away after a while. Maybe it's a thing, I don't know, maybe it's a licensing issue, but you own them, so I don't see what the fucking problem would be. I'm trying to think of some other good games that I played. Oh, the Power Ranger games. Cannot forget those. Out of all the systems that they were on at the time, the Super Nintendo pretty much had the best one. The original one was great. It was a 1-player. You got to play as the first 5 Rangers, go through various levels, and then morph halfway through the end of the level. It was great. Second one was great because it was based off, well, it was called Power Rangers the movie, even though it just had Ivan Ooze in it and everything like that at the end. But you could play 2-player co-op, and you could be Rangers up until the boss, like their civvies, and then morph into the Rangers at the end boss fight. You could save all that. That game is really fun. God, man, like, there's just way too many games to talk about right now. This video is coming up on about 20 minutes now, but goddamn, just the all the games that came out for the Super Nintendo, everything that helped me become a better person, a better writer, a better artist, I owe so much to Nintendo for making the Super Nintendo and really pushing it like they did. I really wish that they would kind of look back now and realize, shit, yeah, you know, we were great at one point. Why can't we do that again? Don't get me wrong, I love the Wii and the Wii U, okay? I am so happy. I have no regrets buying my Wii U. But again, I wish there was more. It wasn't one of those things where you're never happy. We just know the issues that the Wii and the Wii U had. Now, again, they don't need to keep doing that. They can just go back, look at what, you know, hashtag make Nintendo great again. Do something like that. You know, just go back and start making games that we all love, games that are fantastic and fun, and have replay value and unlockables. You know, and even if you don't get it, like, if you 100% the game, just 100% the game, do it. Because I know there's a lot of people who get mad about that shit. And it's like, but you conquered the game. So you're mad you don't get a trophy or anything like that? Okay, big deal. You 100%ed a really tough game. So, you know, again, the Super Nintendo, one of my all-time favorite systems. It's definitely up there in the top 5, obviously. And I don't know what else to really say on it. It's a phenomenal piece of equipment. It really helped me through a lot of dark times in my life when my home life was not that good and my folks were constantly at each other's throat. My mother was, you know, getting arrested for a lot of bad things and doing a lot of bad things, you know. And I honestly believe if I did not have the Super Nintendo, I probably would have been a horrible person growing up, you know. It was there for me. It always had the games. It helped me escape into worlds that were amazing, and it helped further my art abilities, and really just helped, you know, saved me in many ways when you really think about it. So that's my story for the Super Nintendo. 25 years of awesomeness. What are your all thoughts? Because you're all old gamers like me. Some of you are in your 30s now or your late 20s and everything, so you're probably wondering, like, you know, hey, I gotta start looking up some shit. I gotta start remembering my childhood, because I remember mine like every day because of the Super Nintendo and those games on my shelf. So again, what are some of your favorite memories about the Super Nintendo? Let me know down in the comments below. What did you love about it? What didn't you like about it? Or what did you want to see from it that they never got to accomplish? Was there an idea that you had that you would have liked to have seen them done? Like I said, let me know down below, because I'd greatly appreciate it. So, thumbs up the video, subscribe because it's free, and in this stage, free is a damn good thing. As always, everybody, thank you for watching. I'm One Big Boss, and I will see you all next time.